John Mannion and Assemblymember Al Sturpey. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Carrie Wenham, parent, Sweetheart Daycare. Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon. April Arnzen, Senior Vice President and Chief People Officer at Micron Technology. Bishop Colette Matthews Carter, Chair and Chief Volunteer Officer of the YMCA of Central New York. And now, please join me in welcoming the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good morning. On behalf of the YMCA CNY Board of Directors, members, staff, and our countless volunteers, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of our guests and community partners here today. A special thank you, of course, to Micron and to Governor Hochul for your continued leadership and investment into the infrastructure of health and well-being of children and families. So we all know that high-quality childcare keeps children safe and healthy. In addition, it helps children develop skills they will need for success in and outside of the classroom. Research also shows that high-quality childcare is able to apply itself to the development and relationships that children even have with their peers. It teaches them vital life skills that aid in productive health. As a mother and a grandmother, I also know the importance of childcare for the health and financial well-being of families. Having served this community for a number of years in a number of different capacities, I know that safe, affordable, and accessible childcare is one of the biggest impediments for working families. And finally, here at YCNY, we are one of the leading providers of high-quality, low-cost childcare in Onondaga County and nationwide. Our childcare programs offer kids a safe, wholesome environment that promotes social, physical, and academic development. Parents, all the parents in the room, you well know how important it is to have that level of comfort for your children in a childcare program. So with Micron's investment into the vitality of our offerings, we are able to advance this program by continuing to offer these services to families and children that need them the most. So thank you, Micron. Thank you for your continued commitment to the children of our area. It is now my esteemed pleasure to welcome the 57th Governor of New York State to the podium and to the YMCA of Central New York. Please give a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Governor, Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Bishop. Almost exactly 10 months ago, October 4th, 2022, the lives of all New Yorkers were about to change. That is the day that we welcome President Joe Biden here to Central New York to make the extraordinary announcement that the largest economic development investment in our nation's history was coming to Onondaga County. I'll never forget that day, and the day of great speeches and excitement and energy also brought a lot of promises. And today we're here to talk about how those promises by this extraordinary company, Micron, are being kept literally within the first year of the decision to come to Central New York. So I could not be prouder to talk about this opportunity to transform lives forever and ever, starting with our children. How unusual is that? When you talk about a big company that manufactures, makes semiconductors, what does it have to do with children? Well, Micron's enlightened enough to know it has to do with everything. And let's talk about that. But first, I want to recognize our leaders here today who've been part of this extraordinary story, something we're so proud of here in the state of New York. I'm going to talk about every day of the week. But first of all, Bishop Colette Matthews Carter, the chair and the chief volunteer officer of this place that is giving hope to children, allowing them to be in a nurturing, positive environment. It makes all the difference in the world. And it helps struggling moms who are working, who need to bring home a paycheck, supporting families, and it's all happening right here. So let's give a round of applause to our bishop, the chair, YMCA of Central New York. April Arnzen, we feel like we've become friends during this process. The recruitment, I would say the engagement, the romance, to try to lure Micron here. And I want to thank you as the Senior Vice President and Chief People Officer, and we have a lot of people who love you here in Central New York. So thank you, April, for all you're doing. Let's give her a round of applause as well. I want to thank our legislative leaders, and let me put this reminder out there. I'm reading articles about other states that were in competition for this extraordinary opportunity. And what set us apart after Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and President Joe Biden were able to marshal through the CHIPS and Science Act at the federal level. Now that was, the objective of that was to ensure that the United States could compete for these jobs and these companies. But it didn't give a leg up to any particular state. Our legislature, at my request, immediately sprung into action and put forth our own green chips bill and passed it instantaneously. And that gave us what we needed. It gave us that leverage to say, if you come here, we'll not just support you financially, but we'll also hold you to certain standards that we think are important, making sure that you're 100% renewable, that this is a sustainable facility, that you invest in education and workforce training and in childcare. So all that packaged together with the support of our legislature, I am so grateful that we got this done. Let's give a round of applause to Senator Rachel May, Senator John Mannion, Assembly Member Al Sturpey, thank you. Thank you. Our county executive who had this site ready forever. He was ready and poised to be able to step in and be able to seize an opportunity. Unprecedented scale, but I want to give another round of applause to our leader here in the county of Onondaga, Ryan McMahon. Ryan McMahon. And Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh, who knows that Syracuse is one of the great beneficiaries of this. I mean, Clay is charming. It's not real big. And as far as housing the people and the entertainment and the cultural attractions and where people are going to gather and where they're going to go on weekends, I think Syracuse is well poised for this. So I want to thank our mayor for being so excited and part of this energy that helped recruit Micron here. Well, let's give a round of applause to Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh. Helen Hudson is here. Helen, the president of the Syracuse Common Council. The support from the Common Council is extraordinary as well. Let's give a round of applause to Helen. And all the county legislators and members of the City Common Council, I welcome you here as well. We also have two people that were a little bit busier this morning. Melanie Littlejohn was here, and she was one of the co-chairs of the Community Engagement Committee. And I want to thank her and Tim Penix joining us once again here. Tim, thank you. I understand you had a standing room only crowd this morning, right? You must be rock stars. You sure? Right. Well, Melanie and Tim, we talked about this back in April 28th. We got together and announced Micron's commitment to this community engagement, which is not just a sentence on a deal, like, oh, there's going to be community engagement. No, there is a community engagement committee that is stood up. It has 2 co-chairs, leaders from our community, and a community that is really looking forward to being engaged. So good luck with your endeavors. We look forward to staying in touch, but congratulations on a successful meeting just a couple of hours ago. So let's give them a round of applause. And our co-chairs of our Regional Economic Development Council are here as well. Randy Wolkin and Linda Demora is here as well. Thank you for your work leading. I have a feeling the other co-chairs and the other 9 regions are like a little bit jealous about you landing the biggest fish that there could ever be in the ocean. So go ahead and brag about it. Go ahead and brag about it. And I want to thank my Empire State Development team and everyone who put their heart and soul into this endeavor, making sure that it happened, and we were so successful. So now we've talked about how great this is. Let's talk about this region as well. I was literally here just a few days ago announcing $200 million investment to transform downtown businesses and business districts all across the state. And here we are at this facility, a true anchor for the region, and making sure that when we talk about this transformation, we're really talking about changing people's lives directly. And I'll tell you, I have been trying to recruit businesses for the last 30-some years when I was a local town board member in a community not unlike Clay. And I would do anything to get a business to come. I just, please, bring some jobs. This was a time when unemployment was 10, 15, 17% because the steel jobs and the factories were all shutting down. That was Buffalo's story. It was also Syracuse's story. We still are seared with the pain of that loss. It hit us not just economically, but also drove our young people away to other parts of our country. They're all going to North Carolina and elsewhere. It was a hard time. And I worked hard to try and recruit businesses to upstate New York. And it was a heavy lift. I could tell them you have a lot of workers because there's no jobs, you have a lot of people to choose from, but people had given up hope. They really stopped believing. But in all my efforts to recruit businesses and retrain those that had stayed, I have never seen a company with such a strong personal commitment to their future home that I've seen with Micron. It is extraordinary. It is nation leading. And not just investing in the people who'll come work there, that's a nice touch, but investing in the entire community. Not everybody's going to benefit from the programs at this Y are going to necessarily be Micron employees. They may be, but they also may not be. So for a community to care enough about the broader community really sets the bar high and allows me to go forth and say, well, Micron's doing it, can't you as well? I think this is how we lift up the entire state. It changes the conversation that we have when we're talking about business recruitment and development. It just does, full stop. Because they didn't say, no, that's too high of a barrier, it's not our business model. It's part of their values as well. And that's why this is such a beautiful fit. And so this investment of $100 billion over the next 20 years, creating 50,000 good-paying jobs, is undeniably the investment of our lifetimes and indeed the century. I cannot think of a better place for them to come. I'm a little biased. And we have that legacy of manufacturing here. They know about it from typewriters at Smith Corona and Franklin Automobile and Carrier and penicillin down at Bristol Myers Squibb. And now Micron will be part of that story, the manufacturing that'll go on here. But it's not just about making chips. They see that, we saw the possibility. And we talked about this community engagement committee, we stood back here. That's an investment of $250 million directly from Micron. And in order to sweeten the pot a little bit, we put in $100 million from the state of New York. So there's enough resources to have a profound impact. It's not little dribs and drabs, 5 million this year, 5 that. When you have a concentrated effort, an intentionality behind this, that's when you start really making a difference at a large scale. So the goal is to build housing. I'm all about building housing, in case you haven't read the memo. I want more housing built in this state, and now. We have a reason. If there wasn't one before, because we're going to have thousands of new jobs here in Central New York, but also not just Central New York. I can't tell you about the supply chain opportunities that are happening all over the state. People in New York City and Long Island are talking about how they get a piece of this action. Over to Buffalo, Genesee County, Batavia, Rochester, they're all so excited. So all these areas, as we attract more people to come here, are going to need places to live. So we're going to build more housing. We're going to train the workers. This is one of my promises to the CEO. He said, are you going to be able to deliver all these workers? I said, hell yeah. I'll find them for you. I'll go get them for you. I've been kind of busy finding workers. But we can do this. This is New York. People want to be in this state. We have some of the greatest educational institutions, bar none. They're here. And they're energized because they don't have to get that engineering degree and then go look outside this state anymore. The jobs will be here and plentiful. So we're going to build housing, train our workers, invest in education. I'm not just talking about colleges, and what they see is this opportunity to work with our teachers' unions, work with the local community, work with the school districts, and literally change the curriculum. This is how we create a competitive workforce. Others will take notice in other states. When you start having people learning the skills, kids learning the skills related to coding and computer science while they're still in grade school and creates that spark of interest, that's a huge game changer for us. But even younger than the kids in grade school. The little ones, childcare. And so this investment in childcare is a way we're going to start changing people's lives, one child at a time. And what I see here with this community investment fund and the work here is an opportunity to just say, we're not going back. We are investing in our kids and our families, and I know how expensive life is. I know it. It's hard on them. And when you take the cost of childcare and understand how expensive it is, if there's anything we can do as a state, as a community, as a company to alleviate that burden, now the moms can get to work. The dads can stop by and see the child during the day and to keep a connection, keep a relationship. That's what childcare is all about. Because everything's going up. Inflation has been hard. But the cost of childcare, the cost of knowing that it's $15,000 for an infant. Now, what if you have 2 little kids? You're talking $30,000 right off the top of your paycheck just so you can get dressed up and go to work every day? How does that work for low-wage families? Well, we just increased the minimum wage, we indexed it to inflation, but how are families supposed to manage? We saw this during the pandemic. Women did not come back to work in droves the way the men did after the pandemic because there was no one to watch the kids, and it always seems to fall on the shoulders of the women. No offense to the men, it's just a statement of fact, right? That's the reality. A lot of single moms out there, a lot of families where the burden is on the mom, and she has to bring home that paycheck. She has to. It's a matter of survival. So childcare is not an option. Is she going to stay home and hope that money comes in from somewhere? No, she's got to go out and earn it. But someone has to watch the kids. So we're investing in our kids too. Here in the state of New York, we have to provide more affordable opportunities. And so this $500,000 from Micron to this YMCA is a lot of money, and it's going to make a difference. And you spend over $250,000 to date over helping over 2,000 kids. Get this, let me frame this for you. Most of the jobs are going to be coming over a 20-year period. They haven't even started opening the doors to workers, and they've already invested in supporting 2,000 children. Who does that? Micron does. Micron does. This is part of what is so amazing about this story. I'll just digress for a minute because I know a little bit about the challenges of not having childcare. I had a job I loved. I went to Syracuse University, got a job in Washington after law school, worked for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, and I loved working on Capitol Hill. And then first baby comes along, and there are absolutely no childcare options, none. Couldn't find anybody. And I had to go in and tell the senator one day, after I was finishing up my maternity leave. I said, Senator, I don't have anybody to watch the kids. I really don't. And he said, okay, you come back anytime you want. As soon as you figure it out, come back anytime. He passed away before I ever came back, but I loved working there. But it just didn't work out. So my husband was in the public sector. I was now without income, and it was a hit on our family. I'm not saying we suffered like a lot of people suffer. I will not say that. But it was hard. It was hard because the cost of diapers and formula, I couldn't wait till they were out of diapers. We'd have so much money in our pockets, right? And really, when they start eating real food, you don't pay for that expensive formula. This is how families are affected. And now I have a little 1-year-old grandbaby. I'm seeing the same thing. So this is really personal to me. And I don't want moms to have to make that tough choice because the time they're out of the workforce in these early years catches up with them when they don't have as much set aside for Social Security. They may have been bypassed for promotions. They're not getting ahead. And if we can just help them during this time to help them get through they want to be parents, but it's such a hard time for them. So I want to make sure that everybody has these opportunities. So we take care of childcare, we're taking care of economic productivity. It is good for the state. There was once an attitude that was, well, you want to have kids, that's your own choice. You have to deal with that, figure it out. And now what I've reframed since I was even lieutenant governor was, this is an economic problem for the state of New York. It holds us back if we don't have every person, particularly the women, who now have to sit on the sidelines because they don't have someone to watch their kids. So it's about talent attraction, worker retention too. You take care of the kids, they'll be lifelong workers for you. They truly will. And there's a legacy of that in upstate. People went to those jobs at Carrier and worked for 30 years. People like my grandpa worked at the steel plant for 30 years. People do that here. We just need a little bit of help on these early days. So in last year's budget, I'm recognizing how important childcare is across the state. We had talked about how big do we go. We invested in over $7 billion over 4 years, $7 billion investment in childcare. And we brought down out-of-pocket costs for families and expanded income eligibility. It used to be you had to make about $55,000 in order to get assistance. Now it's closer to 90. Look how many more families we covered with that assistance. But families are still struggling. And we increased the child care tax credit, which is important, but guess what? It used to be for ages 5 and up. I'm like, wait a minute, they're most expensive infant to 4. Why are we helping the families when they are in diapers and eating formula? So sometimes I just take someone to say, why? Explain to me why this is. So we made sure that the tax credit covered all the children too. And we also have a statewide business navigator program, which helps businesses and families match up the services, and a new tax credit for companies that'll create child care seats. So I want more companies to follow Micron's lead. I want the state to show we are more than partners. We're helping make all this happen and making sure that I do the same with our own chamber employees, the people who work for the state of New York. So I want to thank again the entire Micron community for leading the way, showing the private sector that don't be afraid of leaning into this because you will reap the benefits and the loyalty and the commitment and the love of a community when you take care of the basic needs of your possibly future employees. And that's what you're doing here today. So your commitment is just, again, I can't find enough superlatives to talk about what this means to us. And this is how we're going to build it. We're going to make sure that New York continues to be a place where families can thrive, where businesses can flourish, and where dreams are realized. And together, teaming up with our friends in the private sector and our state legislators and our local officials, we can do even more. I'm committed to making sure that Micron is not the last big success story, but it's just the beginning. Thank you very much. And with that, let me call up April. April Arnzen, for her works in Micron.
Well, thank you, Governor. And thank you to everyone who's joining us today. Of course, our incredible legislative partners who not only help get Micron here, but you keep showing up and supporting us even after the deal was done, so thank you. And of course, County Executive and Mayor Walsh, my 2 partners in crime. We seem to be covering a lot of ground this week, as we do every time we come here. So thank you to all of you. We really, it's a pleasure to come here today and report out on some of the progress that we're making. As the governor mentioned, last October, we made a historic announcement, a commitment of an investment unprecedented, $100 billion over 2 decades to build leading edge memory manufacturing right here in central New York. And this manufacturing is so important. This is bigger than central New York. The semiconductors are important to the nation. National security, economic stability. We saw so much supply chain disruption throughout the pandemic, and many countries started to realize just how important investments in semiconductors became. The US quickly realized it and activated the CHIPS and Science Act, and we're very, very excited to be part of that. But now the real work begins. Now we have to make this real. We have to deliver on these commitments that we made last October when President Biden visited central New York. And of course, we've got commitments and actions and activities and progress all across the board, whether it's education and training, or thinking about K through 12 and how we get more kids interested in our STEM programs so that they want to pursue technical careers when they move on past high school, whether they go to community college or university, or they enter a training center or training program. We need to inspire that curiosity and that excitement. But we know that's not enough. Training and preparing the workforce of the future is not enough. We have to look deeper. We have to think about the other barriers that exist that prevent people from all communities, all across central New York, and frankly, all across the region, to participate in these education, training opportunities, and long-term in these careers. And of course, we don't have all the answers. We didn't have all the answers last fall when we made these bold commitments and statements, so we quickly turned to the community. We quickly leveraged our partners, of course, the mayor, the county executive, the governor, really enabling us to go and reach out into the community and listen to what the community needs were, and of course, immediately identified childcare as a barrier. Now, of course, childcare is not just a challenge here in central New York, it's a national challenge. Pick your region. But the way you go solve it is very unique to each region. So we needed to understand what was going to be needed here. Through the course of the last 10 months, listening, learning, hearing ideas, hearing feedback, we really have identified 3 strategies that we are going after in the near term while we continue to listen and learn and evolve our strategies for the long term. But the 3 strategies we're pursuing to tackle childcare here in central New York. First and foremost, we of course want to make sure our employees, our 9,000 employees on our fabulous facility, fabulous site, have access to that affordable, reliable, high-quality childcare. And so we committed to building an on-site childcare. It will actually be, yes. Now, when I say on-site, it's actually about 2-minute drive down from our site, so it's near-site childcare. My facilities team always wants me to clarify that it's not right in the middle of our manufacturing facility, but it has to be accessible for our parents. My vision, and I was very clear as our facilities team and construction teams were building out our plans, I was very clear. A mom who just returned from maternity leave is probably still nursing. That mom has to be able to get to that childcare facility, nurse her child, and get back to work in a timely fashion so she does not feel like she missed a beat at all. So this has to be accessible. It has to be able to truly create and enable people of all communities to participate in these careers. And I can tell you, and I know Governor Hochul will share, I was that mom. I was that mom who had to figure out how I could take care of my newborns and still work and have the career. And it was a challenge. And fortunately, I had a great employer and a lot of supportive people in my life who made it work, but not everyone has that. So we have to help. We have to help create that environment. So in July, we purchased the property, 9100 Codnoy Road. We purchased that property. That is where our near-site child care facility will go. So done. Now we have to build it, but we have the real estate. The second part of our strategy, we have to make sure our employees and the community has options. We know capacity is a challenge. We need more capacity, childcare capacity. And not everyone's needs are the same. So a large childcare facility works for some kids, and other kids need more in-home, more intimate childcare settings. I have 3 kids. All of them were born while I was working at Micron. One of my children preferred and thrived more in a smaller in-home setting, while my other 2 children needed the larger social setting. So we've got to create that condition for everyone. So they've got options, they've got things that work for their children and their family. So the second thing we are doing is we are committing to an investment in Peace Incorporated, in a program that really invests in in-home childcare startups, the Early Childhood Career Pathways Program. We've got to bring more in-home childcare online, increase that capacity so that our employees and the community has more options. The third part of our strategy is we know, again, we'll have 9,000 direct employees, but 50,000 jobs in total created, and probably more, across the community, whether it's our suppliers or other community jobs. So just taking care of our own employees, which is great, it does open up capacity for others, but it's not enough. So we are investing in community childcare. And last fall, we did announce a $500,000 commitment to the YMCA for childcare programs and childcare. And we are pleased, as the governor shared, that half of that money has been invested, $250,000 invested, and reached nearly 2,000 kids already. And now we get to invest the other $250,000, and that will be focused on kids 0 to 5. So we're very excited. We're very excited that we have made progress already, but we are just getting started. I am so looking forward to continuing to engage with the community to really understand what else we can do. So of course we can increase the capacity, make sure it's accessible, make sure it's affordable, reliable, high quality childcare that is going to be so important to make sure everyone has the opportunity to participate in this historic moment that we have in front of us to build Central New York as a tech hub and build semiconductor memory right here in the US in Central New York. So thank you for coming today. We appreciate your partnership. We appreciate all of the support we continue to receive from the community. And now I am pleased to welcome one of my great partners, County Executive Ryan McMahon.
Good morning, everybody. What a great week. And Governor, thank you again for coming to Central New York and being here with us and continuing to highlight all the progress that's being made. Because collectively, everybody in this room, we're all making history. This has never been done before. And we have our anchor tenant in Onondaga County. We have our anchor tenant in New York State, our anchor tenant in the Northeast and country for memory technology. And you are setting the bar, April, and to the Micron team, this just doesn't happen. And if you study what's happening now nationally with the reshoring of chips, we study what other companies are doing, and they're not doing what Micron is doing. So again, thank you, Micron, for being here. You talk about the strategy now. We could talk about the selection process, the stories behind that for hours and days, and we can laugh, and those are stories that someday will be well documented. But the execution is a lot harder, but in many ways it's very gratifying. And what we know is to develop a workforce is we need to be able to recruit. We need to be able to retain and develop. And what I'm so pleased about with Micron's investments today and with the state of New York's investments as well, is that that's what we're doing it, and we're doing it in a couple different ways for people to think about. The governor referenced the state changes to make things more affordable. And at the local level, Governor, we got out a little bit ahead of you, about 6 months ahead of you on those. We heard you might be doing it. But what the governor did and what the legislature approved is really substantial, making it more affordable so that working families don't have the cliff effect, right? Have to make that decision about whether or not I lose my child care subsidy if I work 30 or 35 or 40 hours. And raising the income levels is critical to that. In addition to some of the policy changes, capacity, right? A child care provider at some point could not get paid for absences. And anyone who has children knows that you don't get to pick and choose when your child gets sick, and there will be absences. And so now, by allowing those absences, that infrastructure, that child care provider can count on that revenue, which is critical. And we're really, really excited in April to hear about the funding of the Peace Initiative, which was one of our pilot programs to really look at child care infrastructure and develop it in different ways. But what you're doing, besides helping us with the infrastructure, is you're acknowledging something else, and the importance in early childhood. And we know, and one of our huge poverty strategies here in this community is kindergarten readiness. And we know that strong child care, these are the first teachers for our young people. And we know if kids are kindergarten ready, and I'm looking at Superintendent Davis, Desiato, that those kids are going to pass those proficiency exams and they're going to graduate. And so this is about early childhood. It's about workforce. You're developing the workforce of the now by allowing parents to get back to the workforce because of childcare, and you're investing in your workforce in the future with these young people. So I'm very, very proud of what's being done. This is a special community, and it's just getting stronger each and every other day. And at this time, I want to welcome up a parent, and they can talk about what this means to them directly. So at this time, I want to welcome up Carrie Wyman. Carrie?
Thank you. I'm honored to have been asked to be here to speak on my experience with the daycare at the YMCA. My name is Carrie, and I've been a member of the local Y for about 6 years now. As a new or soon-to-be parent, it is super hard to think about where to find good quality childcare. When I first found out I was pregnant for my first child, I asked many friends, relatives, and neighbors what I should do. And immediately everybody said, you need to get on a list right away because there is a long waiting list for childcare. Everybody recommended that I look into the YMCA's daycare programming. I booked a tour. My husband and I fell in love with this facility. We immediately paid a deposit that day and got on the list. Soon after my child was born, my first daughter was born, back in 2016, it was time to return to work. So a spot, luckily, became available to us right at the right time. Bringing your baby to a daycare for the first time is extremely overwhelming and emotional. The thought of having somebody else watch your child while you're at work is so hard to digest. The staff here at the daycare center did everything in their power to comfort me when I dropped off my daughter. Of course, I was an emotional wreck, cried nonstop. They hugged me, they coddled me, they made sure I was okay. They told me, stay as long as you need. They showed me everywhere in the daycare center. They showed me the room. They let me get my child's daycare, the crib ready, her cubby ready. They told me that I was going to be okay. They told me, leave, call as many times as you want. I did. I cried all day. They sent me pictures and memos through the app that they use all day long to let me know that my little girl was okay. They emailed us pictures all day long. Very comforting. Then I found out, a few years later, I was pregnant with my second child. Again, I immediately reserved my spot here at the daycare center. Every time I walked in to either drop my children off or pick them up, the staff here were always on the ground playing with them, running through the sprinklers with them outside, or getting messy making fun projects, or doing yoga, reading wonderful stories. Not only were my kids taken care of here at the Y, my kids had fun here at the Y. Sweetheart Daycare didn't just care for my children's day-to-day needs. They also conducted regular developmental assessments, held parent-teacher meetings to discuss how our children were doing. They invited us to talk to the staff about how our children were doing at home, and offered advice and suggestions. Sweetheart follows a fun, creative curriculum that encourages children to learn. This place is more than just a daycare. During the time my children were here at the daycare, I started to help fundraise and volunteer for many events. A few years after that, the director, Tammy, asked me to be the captain of the Sweetheart fundraising team. It didn't take too long until I learned the value of being involved in this YMCA. I started volunteering by planting gardens with the kids. I planted flowers, and every year I would come during Teacher Appreciation Week to work with the children to make fun gifts for their teachers. It's been a year since graduating from the Sweetheart Daycare program. Since then, my family has utilized the preschool programs, swimming lessons, summer camp options, school break camps, and various other educational opportunities. Sweetheart to me was always more than just a daycare. The YMCA became family to us. There's no doubt in my mind that once we were done with daycare, we would continue to have our membership here. I was a Y kid growing up. Some of my earliest memories was of the fun times I had at the summer camp program, and I always knew I wanted my kids to be a Y kid too. To this day, I remain in close contact with Tammy here at the YMCA. She knows not to hesitate to call me to ask me to do any sort of gigs like this. I know the daycare at the YMCA can tackle this extremely important responsibility of caring for our young children while their parents are hard at work. The importance of having high-quality childcare readily available to families in this area is crucial. This opportunity will most definitely make a huge difference to so many parents, but also for their children. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.